YouTube, Otaku here. We're going to be getting back into it with the final segment of The Grapes of Wrath. Now, after this segment occurs, we're going to be continuing off of where I began the first video of this entry. The Grapes of Wrath has been read through about the month of January 2026, and I will continue to upload videos after, but as of right now, this is the video to end the series entirely. After this, I officially have read The Grapes of Wrath to YouTube. Anyways, my name is Otaku. I'm your personal narrator. If you haven't been onto this channel before, please go to the channel description to get a better idea of who and what this channel's for. If you have been onto this channel before, please go ahead and grab a eucalyptus inhalation ritual equipment. Just trying to clear some room so I can make a proper pack. Can't believe we're here. Honestly, it just feels like yesterday when let's see, like, I'm gonna read just a little bit over page 112, but what exactly was enticing me to begin this series? I like to find out in these last pages we're coming to. So, without further ado, also please have your water on standby. These sessions do get intense. Clink, clink, clink. It's a nice hit. Alright. Page 110. Actually, we are just a little bit into page 111. Are we at the bottom? Yeah. Let's go ahead and just start from the bottom of page 110. In the yard and in the barn, the circle of lantern lights moved about, and the men brought together all the things that had been taken and piled them by the truck. Rosa and Sharon brought out all the clothes and the family possessed. The overalls, thick-soled shoes, the rubber boots, the worn-out best suits, the sweaters and sleek sheepskin coats, and she packed these tightly into a wooden box and got into a box and tramped them down. And then she brought out the printed dresses and shawls and black cotton stockings and children's clothes, small overalls and cheap print dresses. And she put these in the box and tramped them down too. Tom went to the tool shed and brought what tools were left to go. A handsaw and a set of wrenches, a hammer and a box of assorted nails, a pile of pliers, and a flat file and set of rat-tailed files. And Rosa Sharon brought out a big piece of tarpaulin and spread it on the ground behind the truck. She struggled through the door with the mattresses, 3 double ones and a single. She piled them on the tarpaulin and brought arms loads of folded rag blankets and piled them up. Ma and Noah worked busily on the carcasses, and the smell of roasting pork bones came from the stove. The children had fallen by the way in the late night. Winefield lay curled up in the dust outside the door, and Ruthie, sitting on a box in the kitchen where she had gone to watch the butchering, had dropped her head back against the wall. She breathed easily in her sleep, and her lips were parted over her teeth. Tom finished with the tools and came into the kitchen with his lantern, and the preacher followed him. Got in a buckboard, Tom said. Smells like meat. And listen to her crackle. Ma laid the bricks of meat in a keg and poured salt around it over them and covered the layer with salt and patted it down. She looked up at Tom and smiled a little at him, and her eyes were serious and tired. Be nice to have pork bones for breakfast, Ma said. The preacher stepped beside her. Leave me salt this down. Leave me salt down this meat, he said. I can do it. There's other stuff for you to do. She stopped her work, then inspected him oddly, as though it suggested a curious thing, and her hands were crusted with salts, pink with fluids from the fresh pork. It's woman's work, she said finally. It's all work, the preacher said. There's too much of it to split it up to men or women's work. You got stuff to do. Leave me salt the meat. Still for a moment she stared at him, and then she poured water from a bucket in the tin washpan, and she washed her hands. The preacher took up the blocks of pork and patted on the salt while she watched him, and he laid them in the keg as she had. Only when he had finished the layer and covered it carefully and patted down the salt was she satisfied. She dried her bleached and bloated hands. Tom said, Ma, what stuff we gonna take from here? ? She looked quickly at the kitchen. The bucket, she said. All the stuff to eat with. Pans and cups. The spoons and knives and forks. Put them all in the drawer. And take the drawer. The big frying pan and the big stew kettle. And coffee pot. When it gets cool, take the rack out of the oven. That's good over a fire. I'd like to take the wash tub, but I guess there ain't room. I'll wash clothes in the bucket. Don't take no good to take little stuff. I can cook little stuff in a big kettle, but you can't cook big stuff in a little pot. Take the bread pans, all of them. They fit down inside each other. She stood and looked about the kitchen. You just take that stuff I told you, Tom. I'll fix up the rest. The big can of pepper and the salt and the nutmeg and the grater. I'll take all that stuff just at the last. She picked up a lantern and walked heavily to the bedroom, and her bare feet made no sound on the floor. The preacher said, She looks tired. Women's always tired, Tom said. That's just the way women's is, except at men once in a while. Yeah, but tireder than that. Real tired, like she's sick tired. I think you should worry about yourself, Casey, the preacher. Ma was just through the door and she heard his words. Slowly her relaxed face tightened, and the lines disappeared from the taunt muscular face. Her eyes sharpened and her shoulders straightened. She glanced about the stripped room. Nothing was left in it except trash. The mattresses which had been on the floor were gone. The bureaus were sold. On the floor laid a broken comb, an empty talcum powder can, and a few dust mice. Ma set her lantern on the floor. She reached behind one of the boxes that served as chairs and brought out a stationary box, old and soiled, and cracked at the corner. She sat down and opened the box. Inside were letters, clippings, paragraphs, a pair of earrings, a little gold signet ring, and a watch chain braided of hair and tipped with gold swivels. She touched the letters with her fingers, touched them lightly, and she smoothed a newspaper clipping on which there was an account of Tom's trial. For a long time she held the box, looking over it, and her fingers disturbed the letters and then lined them up again. She bit her lower lip, thinking, remembering, and at last she made up her mind. She picked out the ring and watch charm. The earrings, dug under the pile, found one gold cuff link. She took a letter from an envelope and dropped a tricklet in the envelope. She folded the envelope over and put it in her dress pocket. Then gently and tenderly, She closed the box and smoothed the top carefully with her fingers. Oh my gosh. That must have been the freaking thing that she gives Rose's share on. Oh my gosh. She closed the box and smoothed the top carefully with her fingers. Her lips parted, and then she stood up, took her lantern, and went back into the kitchen. She lifted the stove lid and laid a box gently among the coals. Quickly, the heat browned the paper. A flame licked up and over the box. She replaced the stove lid, and instantly the fire sighed up and breathed out over the box. Out in the dark yard, working in the lantern light, Paul and Al loaded the truck. Tools on the bottom, but handy to reach in case of a break.